so busy. I think that place has grown so much.
Yeah, and they're not managed well.
No. I pull the truck in at, I think they open at 6:30 or 7.
10 seconds? Is that what you said?
10 seconds.
10
So
seconds?
I'll pull the truck in.
We're really going to do this?
Yeah, we're gonna do this. We'll do it live.
I hope so.
The following program does not necessarily.
But it should.
Oh God, it should.
Management or ownership of this station.
It's time to get on the right.
But the ownership won't even let you have a bathroom key. No, that's the management. You know that's funny, Nikki.
You need a
That's funny.
bucket.
That's funny.
Today.
You know what you need is a bucket.
Ladies and gentlemen. Morning, Daniel. What's up, Michael?
You are on the air now. They're taking calls at 713-785-1817. Toll free 877-881-0271. Here's Tom and Jason.
Hot mics.
Hey, welcome to the show. Right Path Real Estate Radio, 713-785-1817. That's 713-785-1817. Jason and I, man, it's been, 2 weeks since we've been in the studio together.
Yeah, it's been busy.
It's been busy. It's been busy. In fact, you didn't do the show Monday, right?
Yeah, I told
No, because we did a best of, and you did the show Friday, and your show Friday by yourself, and that was your first time on the radio, and
yeah, like a week
because you had been
I think?
sick, and we'd had the weekend retreat, and a lot of stuff going on. So, and for whatever reason, I'm not streaming too well. But anyhow, okay, I'm gonna close down a bunch of stuff here.
So I want to talk about my favorite Christmas gifts. This is a live show. It's not a pre-recorded show. We are in studio.
Yeah,
You can give us a call, 713-785-1817. I'm like, well, it's been a while since I've given that number out. So I want to talk about my favorite Christmas gifts. I got a couple of real good ones this year. My mom got me some Darn Tough socks. And if you've never had Darn Tough socks,
I never have.
You are missing out. They're awesome. They got a lifetime warranty.
They
That's
don't-
right.
I like soft socks. They
are soft.
Oh, okay.
They're tough.
They're tough and
but they're
soft.
soft. They're merino wool socks. They're a little pricey, but they're super nice. And then the coolest thing my wife got me, and I'd mentioned it, when the Astros won the World Series, we were there for the World Series and the ALCS. And one of the things that I always wanted from the NLCS, because we went to 2 games of the NLCS in 05, is I wanted a jersey to get the patch, the ALCS patch. It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
So when we were at the games for the World Series and any of the playoff games, I noticed a lot of people who had their playoff jerseys from the NLCS 10 years ago.
Wow.
And I told Sarah, it was one of the things I regret. I should have bought it when they went to the went to the World Series and all that. Anyways, so she said, well, what would you put on your jersey? I said, well, I want one with the World Series patch. And on the back, I wanted to say strong and 17 for 2017.
Right. Uh-huh.
And so she ordered for one for me. So I got that for Christmas.
Yeah.
It's really
I saw
cool.
the strong on the back, and I'm like, I don't remember a player named Strong.
No,
but okay.
it's for Houston
Yeah,
Strong.
and
right?
I don't know you as a nickname of Strong.
Right,
but anyhow.
right. So it says strong on the back and 17 for 2017. And it's got the World Series patching on it. But one of my favorite things that comes out every year, and the day it comes out, I read the whole thing. And it's about 200 pages long.
Wow.
And there's a gentleman by the name of David, and I'm going to screw up his last name, David Collum. His last name spelled Collum. He's a chemistry professor. He's a full tenured faculty at Cornell.
Which means he can say whatever the heck he wants.
He can say whatever he wants. Now, he catches a bunch of flack about it. In fact, in this article, he talks about the reason why he'll probably never be a dean or a provost because of some of his conservative viewpoints that he shares with the world, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Because
that's the whole point of becoming tenured faculty, because then you can say whatever. I don't want to say whatever you want, but you've got the academic freedom to do things that are unpopular. It's unfortunate because I don't think he's going to get.
Well, you're supposed to encourage intellectual discourse and debate and all of that.
Right, right. And so he actually talks about that in part of this article. But he is he's an investment guy. Reminds me very much of Burry in The Big Short. But he produces an article every year. His last name, again, is spelled Collum. He's a full tenure faculty chemistry professor at Cornell. He produces a year in review over some of the stuff he's done, some of the trends he sees. He's on 1 million different podcasts now. He's incredibly popular. He wasn't that popular about a year or two ago, and you really had to be an investment nerd to read him. But he is absolutely fantastic. Again, his article's about 200 pages long. It comes out typically day before Christmas. And so, I kid you not, Christmas Eve, I sat there and just pounded through the entire article. I'll read through sections of it. I'll read through sections of it throughout the year. Highly recommend, if you want to read what's going on in the world, if you want an alternative view, is probably a better way to put it. I would recommend reading his article, and he is spot on a number of things. On the sovereign bond market, when people talk about bubbles in real estate and that's the next bubble to burst, I'm like, you've got no idea. Cars are actually the next thing that I think is really going to pop. And then he talks about education and finance.
It's going to go down in value, is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, what we know is there's a huge subprime market for automobiles.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been that case for about 2 years. And some of these things are coming off lease in 2018 and 2019. It's going to have a pretty big impact for companies like Ford and GM and those sorts of things. So some of that is in part due to cash for clunkers.
Right.
Back in 2009, 2010. I mean,
Yeah.
all this stuff. One of the things that he talks about, and it's
That was a boom year for cars then.
Correct.
But then that also messed up the cycle where you normally, if the average life cycle of a car is 7 years, let's
Right.
say, then what happens is about one, you're turning over 1/7 of the market of cars. But if you turn over 50% of the cars in 1 year, which is, you got a lot of the older cars off the
Right.
market and with cash for clunkers, and that really messed up the cycle.
the economist term for that is called pulling forward demand.
Yes.
So, and the same thing actually happens
Wow.
with debt.
Bringing back some
I know
education.
I know.
right?
This is what I do when I'm not here.
Right.
I'm really just reading this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, here's one thing I'll tell you guys. The premise of his article, and like I said, it's over 200 pages long. Again, his name is Dave Collum, Collum. He does what's called a year in review. So Google that up. But the premise of this year's article is something that's incredibly fascinating, and that is regression to the mean. Now, I've introduced this concept a couple of times to this audience. It's even a blog post on the Right Path Real Estate blog. Highly recommend you go read that. But the fascinating thing in the world of biology is that we know that over time you regress to the mean. What does that mean? You're the sum of the average is really what it comes down to. And it's very difficult to break out of that average. So one of the things he says in that article is that, look, 2008, 2009, we didn't hit the bottom. Mathematically, we did not hit the bottom. In fact, we skipped right over it because of the liquidity provided by the federal government through the Federal Reserve and through that enormous program. If y'all remember when W was in office, that's when the actual financial crisis happened. He and Obama got together through the omnibus, what they call the stimulus program, and injected like $700 billion into the market. And then the Federal Reserve, between them and the Treasury, started essentially printing money. So
Quantitative
easing, yeah.
That's AKA printing money.
Yeah. The
Fire up the presses, boys.
Fire it up, let's go. So
Actually, no, they really don't have to print anymore. They just put a lot more zeros and ones in computers,
it's
right?
Pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
You just give it to the bank. So
Right.
if you look at what the United States has done and what other sovereign governments have done that actually matter. I mean, I'm not talking about what Paraguay has done, right? Like real institutions that really matter. If you look at the amount of capital that's been printed between 2008, 2009, and now, it's about $200 trillion.
If you budget right, you can live on that.
You can live on that. So his entire premise of this article is, at some point we're going to regress to the mean, and him and a number of quantitative, a bunch of numbers guys, have actually sat down and figured out.
They're
what
lots of
that
fun
looks
at a
like.
party.
They are fun at a party.
Not really.
These are the guys you don't want to get more than about a beer in, because then they just start going kind of nuts. So one of the things they figured out is, somewhere in the next couple of years, they're looking at a 50 to 60% reduction in the market. In other words, 50 to 60% in losses in order to get down to the mean. And I thought, that is interesting. So what are the implications for that? And then he talks about what's going on in VIX.
That'll jack up a few people's retirements.
Well, yeah, that's his point. Is he said, at the same time you've got all these pension problems
Yeah.
across the country. Not only not only government pensions, you've got which are really state. It's really state federal pensions are a whole different animal. They can just print more money. We're not worried about federal pensions. It's state and local pensions. And then corporate pensions.
It's the city pensions and it's the state, because firefighters, policemen, most of those guys are on teachers. They're on pensions, or teachers less so now, but and then state level employees. I mean, that pensions is what killed Detroit essentially.
Yeah,
and it's what's killing California. It's why Houston is not solvent right now essentially.
Oh, it's destroying Dallas.
Right.
It is absolutely destroying Dallas right now. So, but the idea of these defined contribution plans or the
defined benefits.
Defined benefit plans, it never worked to begin with.
Right.
So if you're on one of those, I highly recommend you start real estate investing like yesterday, because that's just going to get worse.
Yes.
But in any case, fantastic article, and I think he's right. I really do think he's right, especially when you get into when you look at the mean. How, is it realistic for us to experience 3, 6, 7, 8% growth year over year over year over year in the stock market? And it's really not.
Well, when you look at valuation, because ultimately it comes down to valuation. And valuation means that, you can break down the parts of the business and say each of these parts is worth and what's the sum of the whole, right? And when you look at what's the return of the business and how much you're paying for the return, one of the exercises we go through at the weekend retreat is, hey, if I was selling a machine shop that makes $1 million a year, who would pay $1 million for that? Everybody in the room raises their hand.
Absolutely.
Get all your money back in a year. Okay, who would pay $2 million? And it's almost like, start a bidding situation.
Yeah.
I got $2 million, I got $2 million, who would give me $3 million? So, and some people pay $10 million for that, right?
Yeah.
Well, in some of the valuation of the business, it's like you're paying $100 million for that machine shop that's worth $1 million. I mean, it's almost like you're paying 100 years worth of, not to that extreme, but
no, it is almost to that extreme.
Because some of them are undefined.
If you look at Sears,
yeah,
you look at Sears and how much in debt they've got for each one of those.
We're going to go to a break. You listen to Right Path Real Estate Radio, 713-785-1817. We'll talk about Sears on the other side of the break.
Mic's off.
Yep. Yeah, my system said, apparently time to upgrade.
Did you know that there are over
Yeah.
$24 trillion in retirement accounts in the U.S.? Imagine if you
All right.
could use someone's
Hey, good morning, Jeff.
IRA to fund all
Morning,
of your
Jason.
deals. Well, you can. Quest IRA
What's up,
is
Matt
based
Downs?
locally here in Houston, Texas. At Quest IRA, we offer retirement accounts that can be used to invest in
I'm
real
gonna
estate, promissory
listen.
notes, private entities, and much more. Many of our clients loan money from their IRAs to fund real estate deals all over the country. We don't sell any investments or give advice. However, we do hold free networking events, weekly educational classes, and free consultations with an IRA specialist. For more information, visit our website at questira.com or call us at 1-855-FUN-IRAs. To tap into the $24 trillion in retirement accounts in the U.S., call Quest IRA at 1-855-FUN-IRAs or go to our website, questira.com.
Hi, Clint Coons here, attorney and avid real estate investor. You know the greatest mistake real estate investors make is not understanding the potential liability that exists from owning real estate. At Anderson Business, Legal, and Tax Advisors, we specialize in protecting real estate investors in all 50 states. In addition to structuring your business for optimum protection, we provide guidance so you pay the least amount of taxes available under the law. We have
And so did your folks come in for Christmas? Or?
Yeah, my
Okay.
parents did.
And
download our free ebook, The Invisible
and I assume
Investor
Sarah's did
Strategy
not?
today at
No, they come,
AndersonAdvisors.com, or
so her
call
dad
for
was in
free
town
risk
last,
reduction analysis and
so 2 or
financial
3 weeks ago.
blueprint
Okay.
at
We do
800
Thanksgiving up there,
Yeah,
and
right.
my parents do Christmas. so.
4741. Anderson Business Advisors will help you keep more of what you earn. Call us today at 800-706-4741 and mention Right Path Real Estate.
Yeah, one of the things he mentions in this article, I'd have to find the data,
Yeah.
but he's got some great charts on, because they've been doing all these stock buybacks.
Yeah.
Because debt's so cheap.
Right.
And they figured out what essentially the debt to equity ratio is.
Oh, this isn't Zero Hedge?
Well, that's where they post it, but it's on his website too.
What's his website?
Peak, is it Peak Prosperity? I can't remember.
or selling you unnecessary paperwork.
If you just type in
So we
David,
are in the business
Dave
of
Collum,
evaluating your
yeah,
foundation.
year in review,
Our product is
Zero
designed
Hedge
for
will be the
house
big.
flippers, landlords, or even owner-occupied properties. Each of our files
Oh,
is
they're doing a
reviewed by
Bitcoin
licensed
cryptocurrency
engineer.
webinar.
Remember to check
Everything you wanted to
for
know,
every
but were
repair.
afraid to ask.
346-702-3825.
Yeah, and he'll tell you this Bitcoin stuff is stupid.
That's 346
It's like,
702
for stupid
3825. Or you
people.
can reach us online at foundationcheck.com. That's
What it really comes down to is like,
foundationcheck.com.
As a real estate
what's it
investor,
worth?
You rely on your property inspector to determine the
'Cause-
current condition of the
You know what it
home
reminds
and
me
your
of?
potential return on
A
investment.
Beanie Babies
Principal
and
inspection
Pokemon
is
cards.
mounted by an
Yeah,
Remember
that's
when they-
exactly what it is.
I mean, it's
yeah.
just like, yeah, Pokemon cards, it's the new currency. You know, there's a limited number of them, and
Well, here's his. I pulled up his Bitcoin. My favorite part in his Bitcoin is volatility. Nobody will use a currency to pay for groceries if price moves. If price move 10% a day or even 5% as you move from the frozen food aisle to the vegetable aisle. I'm like, it's perfect.
Yeah.
You've got to have stability in currency.
but he just doesn't understand.
He doesn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's probably don't know. I mean, he's only got a PhD in chemistry.
Yeah.
And he's tenured faculty at this terrible institution called Cornell.
684-5516 or go online to principalinspections.
I need to pull down all the podcasts he's been on. He's a real interesting guy. He's got a
Is this the
wicked
one
sense
that-
of humor.
This is Business 1110.
The vicious cycle approaches.
No, it should be year in review.
785-1817 or look for us on Facebook Live at facebook.com/rightpathrealestate.
Hot mics.
Welcome back, Jason Bible, Right Path Real Estate. Here's the deal, guys. You got to go buy some real estate.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. You know, if you've got 10, 15, 20 houses free and clear, and I'm not saying you can do that in a year, but I'm certainly saying you can do that over a
Oh, it comes in part.
handful of years. And to have free and clear real estate, I mean, what's the risk at that point? I mean, you're insured against any kind of, perils, and that includes your tenant burning the thing down. And you don't have any debt, so I mean, what's the downside there? I mean, it's really hard. I'll tell you, it's really hard to screw up. It really is. It's hard to, when you're buying real estate, when you're buying single family real estate as a rental property, it's just hard to make a really poor decision. If you're using a hard money lender, if you're using a bank to finance the purchase, they're going to get an appraisal. You're going to get a rehab estimate from somebody like Fast Track. I mean, you're going to know all of the assumptions, all of the unknowns are going to be there for you. What's the house worth today? What's the house worth when you get it fixed up? What's it going to rent for? What's the rehab going to cost? You're going to have all those things are going to be known to you before you purchase the deal. The worst thing that happens is a collapse in real estate. But if you've got enough margin in these things, and you should if you're doing it right, it's really hard to mess it up. It just is. So we think real estate's the way to go. I mean, you could pick any other asset class, but here's what I'll tell you. What I see going on in the market, and I'll tell you, I've been invited to a number of events starting in January that are essentially, hey, what's going on in the market for 2018? And here's what I'll tell you. Real estate right now in certain areas of town in Houston is on sale. It really is. And for those of y'all outside of Houston, you can take advantage of the current financing market. There's a lot of financing that wasn't available to real estate investors 5 years ago. That's available to you now as a buy and hold landlord, as a flipper. Heck, we even have a fund now. I mean, it's amazing to me all the stuff you can do that you couldn't do 5 years ago. So now's the time to take advantage of real estate, to take advantage of the opportunities in real estate. And that's not just in Houston, that's here in, that's in Dallas, Fort Worth, it's in Denver, that's in California, it's in all these different places. Now, LA might be LA is a whole different deal. Miami's another place I wouldn't invest in. New York City's another one. But
I'd like to buy some condos there when the market crashes again.
Oh yeah, well I got my eyes on Porsche Tower in Miami.
Yeah.
I really do. I'm like,
Yeah.
when the next crash comes,
Yeah.
we're picking up a place in Porsche Tower.
That'd be okay.
So I'd be fine with that. It's technically in Sunny Isle, I think. It's just it's between Miami and Fort Lauderdale.
Will they let you park a Lamborghini in Porsche Tower?
I don't think they care as long as the check clears.
Right.
I don't think they care at
Can
all.
you pull up with an Audi A8, something like that?
Yeah, you can do something like that. I'm going to find the oldest beat-up Chevy pickup truck, and I'm going to roll that in there. It's going to no catalytic converter. It's going to smell awful. It's going to backfire. That's when I'm going to park in Porsche Tower, just to be that guy. But in any case, so we really think real estate is where it's at. And I can tell you right now, we've been on this, quote, recovery now for 10 years, 11 years. And don't get me wrong, has Trump had an impact on the market since November? Absolutely. But everybody's ascribing the success in the market to
What
Trump.
I love is what
and
he
I'm like,
did.
I don't think that's the case.
But one of the things I love is that how he gave an economic impact in a big way. Because when you have a tax cut, and they were saying, "Oh, the tax cut's for the rich, not for the middle class," right? But when you give a tax cut to the corporations, this is what people don't realize: is that corporations, they don't really exist. It's almost like taxing. Like my daughter likes. You've been to the Build-A-Bear place.
Yeah.
It's almost like taxing the bear.
Yeah.
Because the bear can't pay taxes. And the corporation is like a bear that we've created, right? It's this stuffed bear. And so who pays the actual taxes are either the shareholders, who are the owners of the company, or it's the customers of the company, because they'll pay higher prices when the company pays taxes, or it's the employees of the company. Those are the three people. Corporations do not pay taxes.
I've always said we shouldn't have any corporations that pay taxes.
Correct.
I think capital gains tax is ridiculous.
Right.
Because you pay taxes on that already.
Right.
So it's kind of, I always thought that was kind of stupid. But it's the whole soak the rich mentality.
Right, of course.
Well, so we're sitting there this was probably 2 or 3 months ago, and I'm hanging out with, we're doing a Boy Scout camp out, hanging out with a bunch of the dads there. And all of these guys, for all intents and purposes, if you set them up against the average American, they're all wildly successful. They own businesses. A lot of them are doctors and lawyers and run big practices. And so we're sitting there one day around the campfire, and the boys are out, cleaning up after dinner or whatever. And we got in the discussion about politics. And of course, as you can imagine, everybody in there is pretty conservative. But anyway, so one of the discussion points came up is, well, what about all this tax stuff? And I said, look, guys, the middle class doesn't pay taxes. And a couple of guys were like, well, wait a second. I pay taxes and I'm middle class. And I'm like, you're a physician. I actually said this. I said, you're a physician. You're about as far from middle class as anybody else here.
Right.
I said, look, the middle class is a median home income of $45,000 or $50,000 a year, whatever. When you look at the percentage they pay, it's almost nothing.
Right.
And there was another gentleman there who I didn't ask what he does, but I can tell he works in high finance, because he said the same. He said, look, middle class doesn't pay anything.
Right.
So whenever there's a tax cut, it necessarily has to benefit the rich, because the rich pay all the taxes.
Yes. Yeah. How do you give a tax cut to somebody that doesn't pay taxes?
Yeah,
You can't give it. So we all agree that poor people don't pay taxes.
No.
And so like a
federal income taxes. They don't pay federal income
Right.
taxes.
So like a homeless guy, he doesn't pay federal. We don't expect
right.
he's not filing a 1040 every year or anything like that. He's not even the easy or short
No.
form, right? So how do we give a tax cut to that guy that's going to benefit him? He doesn't pay anything anyway.
Right.
And truth be told, you've seen the numbers that
he gets the earned income credit, right? So he gets paid.
but he doesn't actually file, so he
Right,
doesn't
right.
even get
That's
that.
true,
Right.
that's true.
And the reality is that he probably makes $200 a day.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes those guys are out on the street, they're asking for money, and I saw a situation. A guy said, "Hey, I need a warehouse worker. You want to come work? Pay you $8 an hour." He goes, "Man, that's a cut in pay for what
That's
I'm earning."
right.
He's working 8 hours a day out on a street corner, and he's making like $20 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
He makes $160 to $200 a day, tax free.
That's right.
That's $1,000 a week,
Mm-hmm.
tax free.
Work in a corner.
Work in a corner.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a fantastic article that came out of Zero Hedge probably a year or so ago, where they looked at. Of course, they're a news aggregator, so they got it from another website, but it basically said they had figured out in certain states, based off the number of dependents you have, it would actually cost you money to go to work for even just above minimum
Oh, yeah,
wage
of course.
versus all of the state
yeah.
benefits you get.
Oh, we have a friend that lives in Pennsylvania, and he used to be a teacher at a private school. He also writes textbooks, and he's been struggling with. He got diagnosed about 10 years ago with a rare form of thyroid cancer that's now metastasized into. It looks like it's all over his lungs. Looks like a shotgun blast.
Oh, wow.
Trouble is that although his wife would like to work, that because the cancer treatment is so expensive, they're on some government assistance. They can't make more than $200 a month
Oh, wow.
and not lose the benefits. Which it's like when you're receiving so much in benefits because of health care, and yet it's I get means testing and all that. But somebody's actually got to look at some real world scenarios and say, hey, there's got to be a way that we can not discourage people from being productive when they want to be productive.
Yeah, here's the amazing thing, the skill set that guy has.
Yeah, of course.
Right. And we're putting his skill set on the sidelines instead of paying back into the system.
And
with
not
his
just him,
taxes.
but it's the whole family.
Well,
it's
right,
like
yeah.
if it's almost like you are encouraging the husband and wife to get divorced that's ludicrous when you start looking at the way these laws get written, and you're just like, oh my gosh. It's I remember as a kid growing up that ignorance of the law is no excuse, right? But how can you really know all the laws? I mean,
Well, it's getting a little ridiculous.
it is. Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting with this tax cut because I do think there's some great implications here in real estate, and we will probably more than likely have a special guest on sometime in January once people have time to digest it and what.
Well, we talked a little bit about
there.
that on Tuesday because one of our live guests on yesterday was the attorney from Houston, or actually went to A&M Law School up in Dallas apparently, and knows Texas law. He's kind of the Texas specialist, and I was asking him about the new tax implication. He goes, "Hey, we're digging into it right now, seeing what all is going." But so I assume we'll have him on because they're the guys that are the most interested in what implication because they're investors also,
Right. I'll tell you what's been fascinating is those folks who are in certain states are trying to prepay property taxes for as many years as they can before the end of 2017.
Yeah.
So they can write them off this year.
Right.
But then again, there's no provision in the law. Well, are you allowed to carry forward those prepaid taxes from 2017? So it's going to be kind of a mess for the next 6 or 8 months as they're trying.
Yeah, in fact,
to figure
on the
all this
news
stuff
today
out.
they were showing lines in different counties across the country where people are standing in line. Although there's a cap on how much you're. I mean, it doesn't affect us. I don't because I think it's only as it relates to personal residences.
It's a personal residence,
and
right.
it's property taxes on properties above $800,000. I think it is.
Yeah. So interesting to see how that's going to play out.
So people living in $1 million houses prepaying their property taxes so that they can write them off this year and hoping that they can carry it forward.
Yeah. So all these things have an implication in the market, right? So where do all those instead of those productive dollars?
Nikki, how long did you say?
Instead of those productive dollars going into investing,
right?
We're now putting it into property so we can prepay our taxes.
Yeah.
How ludicrous is that? That absolutely has a market implication there.
Yeah, it means that they're not out buying, Christmas gifts or, not as many as they could have. They're not buying new cars. They're not buying, other things that they would be buying. So there's a cause and effect every time that you create an incentive or you take away, something that's existed. So you're listening to Right Path Real Estate Radio. You can give us a call, 713-785-1817 if you want to join in the conversation, or if you have a question about, hey, Tom, how do I find deals? How do I fund deals? How do I fix deals? How do I analyze the deals? How do I dispose of the deal when we're done? If you want to talk about buy and hold, buy, fix and flip, or wholesaling, give us a call, 713-785-1817.
Mike's off.
All right.
You found or inherited a great investment property. Problem is, you don't know how much it's worth, or more importantly, what to do to maximize your investment while mitigating risk. This is exactly why we started Next Gen Appraisal. Next Gen is a
Morning,
group of
Daniel.
appraisers specializing in investment real estate. We understand that investors aren't just looking for a number of what their property is
Morning,
worth,
Michael,
but
Matt.
comprehensive analysis of the market. Give Next Gen a call at 713.
Oh yeah, Michael, I didn't even realize that. You got to be pretty close to this thing since you are retired HFD. But those guys are freaking
If your
out.
insurance company is slow or non-responsive, you could lose a deal like that.
So
Need a quick
here's
turnaround
my
on
favorite
quotes,
thing
binders, and the
about the
agency that has
whole
Benchmark Insurance Group
Houston
protected.
pension
The
thing.
team at Benchmark
That all
Insurance
happened
Group
under
is
Bill
right.
White.
They know
And
what
who
you
was the
need and when you
controller?
need it. It's there for you.
It was
Call
Anise
Houston's
Parker.
leading real estate
And I'll
risk
never
management
forget when
expert.
she was running for
Benchmark
office, she was like,
Insurance Group of Texas.
well, I don't know what happened to these
281-569-4353.
pensions. I mean, whoever was managing the math did a really poor job. My understanding it was her.
Or online
Underneath
at
Bill White.
benchmarkbrokers.com.
It
As
made
a
no
real estate
sense at
investor,
all.
You rely on your property inspector to determine the current condition of the home and your potential return on investment
Ryan.
from an investor's
Richard?
point of view. Principal Inspections was founded by investor Jeremy Humphrey to do just that. Principal Inspections works from the investor's point of view, providing affordable, fast, quality inspections with information pertinent to investors while not clouding the report with unnecessary details. Principal Inspections will save you time and money. Call Principal Inspections 832-684-5516 or online at principalinspections.com. License number 21264.
I've got our year-end financials here, folks.
Time is money
We've been
in a
going
real
over them
estate
for like
deal.
a week.
If your
It's pretty
insurance company
cool.
is slow or non-responsive,
Just for Houston
you can
house
lose a
buyers.
deal like that. You need a quick turnaround on quotes or binders. The agency for that is Benchmark
So
Insurance.
we
Group of
almost
Texas.
cracked,
Team
and
at
it
Benchmark
depends on what happens
understands
this
the
week.
investor mindset. They know
Let me
what
see
you
here.
need and
Where are
when
we
you need
at?
it. We're here for you. Are you a rehabber, wholesaler?
We
buy and
might
hold
crack.
disorder? Bundling your properties on a
Yeah.
single policy will help save time and money. Benchmark has been in business for over
I
10
wonder-
years, and we insure over 30,000.
We're closing.
Contact Benchmark about our
We're closing
exclusive
something
investment
this
package.
week, aren't we? We're buying two and
let us
selling
show
one
you
or
what
something.
we can do for you at 281
I'd have. I know we just bought one in Pasadena. We just closed on it.
Or online at
I'm wondering
benchmarkbroker.com.
if we will actually
That's
crack
benchmarkbroker.com.
10 mil, but I'm trying to
That's
see
281
just in HHB.
569
I'm trying to see what that
4353.
number was.
Or online at
It was close. It was like
benchmarkbroker.com.
It was like
9.7.
9.7, 9.8.
Yeah.
Are you
We
expecting
might
to
crack
close
10 million. That would be
accurately,
pretty
on time,
cool.
and with lots of communication
9.2.
on your home purchase?
9.868.
You've come to
We
the
might
right
crack
place.
10 million.
I'm Jennifer Hernandez, Senior
That'd be
Loan
so cool.
Officer
Yeah.
with Legacy Mutual Mortgage. Our goal is to give our borrowers and referral partners an amazing experience.
Speaking of the new
during
tax,
loan
I love how
process.
all the
My team
so-called
believes in
experts
putting
know
people
everything.
and
Yeah.
culture before results. Our
Dude,
company
Brian,
concentrates
I agree
on
with that.
building
They
these
don't.
teams who
We've
offer
got
the
guys who are.
structure,
So our
process,
tax
and
people are.
recognition
They're
for going the extra
the
mile for
guys that are
you.
sponsors of the
This
show.
way, we have the
I mean, they're
energy to make
attorneys
this your
and
best
CPAs,
home
and they're
purchase ever.
still digging
Give us
through
a
it.
call today
And what a lot of
to
people
find
don't
out the
understand is
simple steps to get
this thing
started.
may affect
I'm
these
Jennifer
7
Hernandez,
things, but
the
based off your
Hernandez
tax
team
filing, I
at
mean,
Legacy
it's
Mutual
such a
Mortgage. Jennifer
delicate system.
legacymutual.com or call 713
It's I equate it to nutrition in the human body. So where you see these studies and they're like, more salt will kill you. Then the next study comes out and says, well, less salt will kill you. And it's like, it's so much more complex than that. It really
It
is.
is right.
4497.
Are small returns
30
getting in the way
seconds.
of your retirement
And it's
plan?
completely
Why
unnecessary
settle
when
for
you really
mediocre
get down
results?
to it.
There's a better place to invest. The experts agree, single-family real estate is one of the best investments you can make. Find out how JB Fund Services offers a 9% preferred return and up to a 13% waterfall. Call us today at 281-915-0906.
I'm
or
telling
visit our
Jennifer
website,
Hernandez she doesn't need to bring lunch.
jbfundservices.com.
Oh,
That's
okay.
281-915-0906.
Because I'm saying we're still meeting in our office today, but most of our office
This
staff are gone
investment
and
is
we aren't
offered
having
through
our
Federal
sales meetings here.
This is Business 1110.
Call Jason or Tom at 713-785-1817 or look for us on Facebook Live at facebook.com/RightPathRealEstate.
Hot mics.
Welcome back, Jason Bible, Tom Perry, Right Path Real Estate. A couple of comments we're getting on Facebook. Speaking of the new tax law, I love how all the so-called experts know everything there is to know about the new tax law, but all the lawyers are still digging into it. Yeah, you know what? Just
Well, not only the lawyers, it's also the CPAs, right?
Yeah.
all the people that actually do the books, do the tax filings, all that, all the tax attorneys, because there's some people that are CPAs and attorneys, right?
Yeah.
And all those guys are like, hey, we're just now reading all of this stuff and all the
and digesting it. I
yeah.
mean, it's
and the news media, they're all experts in it.
right.
And even the politicians are like, hey, let's pass this stuff
it
so we
and
can read it.
See how it impacts the.
Right.
I mean there's no way to know all the stuff, and it's going to take time to digest it and figure out how it's. And then of course the next statute.
What I can tell you is $1,000 per employee has already trickled down
That's right.
to every AT&T employee and every. I mean, I know several of the Fortune 500 companies that said, hey, $1,000 bonuses going out.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean
love it.
that's faster than the government can move.
Yeah, there will be, of course, there will be a million books written on the Trump presidency, even in this first year.
Yeah.
I think some of the things, this is, if you are interested in marketing at all and strategy, whether you like Trump or not, it doesn't really matter. The guy is masterful at putting a target out there for people to hit. Meaning, here's my Twitter account. I'm going to say something crazy, and the media is all going to get worked up, and they're going to be focused on this crazy thing. All the while, he's sitting there changing all the judiciary.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you ought to see what's going on. Y'all don't even.
Yeah,
y'all have no clue.
Haven't
what's
seen
going
a
on.
single article about who his judges are.
No, and he is packing the house right now.
It's like a
He's
third
very
of the judges.
conservative.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that the Obama administration, the Democrats, completely blew. And if you liberals are mad, if y'all get mad at anybody, y'all need to get mad at them, because the judiciary is about to be changed for the next 50 years.
Yes,
which is the
'Cause
only
he's
reason
putting
I
some
voted
young
for him.
guys in.
Some young
He's
guys
put-
in that are very conservative. I mean, he is stacking the house with it, and they are just. And he goes out there and tweets, "Oh, Rosie O'Donnell's fat" or whatever, and the whole media blows up. All the while,
Oh, that's no nice.
yeah, all the while,
All
it's
the
like-
while, Rosie O'Donnell is trying to bribe senators.
That's right. I forgot about
I
that.
think she's a felon now.
Yeah, she should be a felon. All the while, he's sitting there and he's just packing the judiciary. And then he's going up here and he's saying something crazy about whatever, and then the tax plan gets passed through. It's a fascinating. I don't want to call it a bait and switch. Really, what he's really doing, it's
a sleight of hand distraction.
That's right. He's like, look over here, and then all the while in the back room, he's saying, all right, guys, we're going to do this and this and this. Go, push it through. Go, go, go. All while, because we know that the Republicans are like, I mean, you put them out in the midday sun and
Right.
they wilt.
Right.
They're the weakest bunch of dudes I know. Anyway, so
Well, most Republicans are not much different than most as
That's
career
the same
politicians.
guys,
They're
yeah.
the same. I mean, it's like, hey, who wants to be shirts? Who wants to be skins this week? Okay, ready, switch. I mean,
that's exactly what it's like.
Yeah.
Right? So now he's playing a masterful game of that. And the media is missing it, because the media thinks all the salacious stuff he's putting on Twitter is what he's actually doing, and they're completely
Well, what's happening
missing
is
it.
he's really exposing the true game of politics, in that, that we're supposed to have these politicians that we know they play politics, right?
Yeah.
And then there's these career bureaucrats. Really, they're in the FBI. They're in every department of every federal government agency, and they're not supposed to be political. They're supposed to just do their job. And now, oh, lo and behold, guess what? People at the top of the FBI, they're political. They actually favor one political party. That's not supposed to be.
So if you go into Dave Collins' Year in Review, he does extensive research into all this stuff. And I'll tell you, the fascinating thing is, there might be some high up guys, the FBI, that may end up in jail.
Yeah.
That have a lot to do with this Russian collusion thing. I did not know Manafort was indicted not for what was going on
Correct.
during the Trump campaign,
Right.
but while he was running that
10 years before.
Not only was it 10 years before, but you know who he was working with 10 years before? Hillary Clinton.
Right, yeah, exactly.
This is all the stuff with Clinton. That's why he's getting indicted.
Right.
But the media completely glosses over that.
Shh, don't tell anybody about it. Let's keep the Clintons out of it.
So I think there's going to be a lot of very interesting stuff on that side of the house that comes out in 2018. But
and
anyway,
here's a question: how do you raise almost $1 billion in your quote unquote nonprofit organization?
Yeah.
I mean, and not have some conflicts of interest?
Well, there is a rumor out there that the FBI is now investigating some of the things that were. Well, it wasn't the FBI. They were maybe it was I can't remember who it was. They were investigating the things that were happening at the Clinton Foundation in Haiti. Actually, there's a whole section of this thing where he goes into all these people that were supposed to testify against the Clintons that mysteriously ended up dying from non-natural causes.
What?
It was the weirdest thing. Anyway, so
and they're not the first.
No.
There's a long history of enemies that have died of they suicide. They shot themselves in the back of the head 3 times
with a rifle.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's just weirdest thing, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so it goes into all that. I'm telling you, it's my favorite thing I look forward to every year. You ought to read it. Dave Collum, his last name spelled Collum. Search for his Year in Review. Fantastic, very well researched. He goes into all the big stories. He talks about, of course, a lot of the finance stuff and investing, and then goes into the really big stories. And he goes. One of my favorites is he goes into the lie of the millennials, which I talked about Friday, which is oh, well, the millennials are just going to live like little bees. You know, they're going to live in these
little
apartments.
colonies.
Yeah, little colonies. They're going to live in apartments forever. And, you know, suburbia is done with, and you're not going to be able to invest in single-family real estate. And, of course, that is not true.
That's why multifamily's been overbuilt.
Yeah, multifamily is multifamily is about to experience it has the potential to be a generational downturn. We'll see what happens there, but here's what I'll tell you: is it's not gonna be pretty for the multifamily folks in the long term. However, let's go back to real estate, and that is
so. Jason, if I was if I was an oil and gas guy, if I'm a physician. If I don't really like, having all of my money exposed to a 401k, what would be the best way to start learning about how to start investing in real estate?
Show up to our event Thursday night.
Yeah, our introduction to income and wealth through real estate,
and we break down at that free event on Thursday night. We break down why you shouldn't invest in a lot of this nonsense. You look at the PE ratio. I was looking at was it the PE ratio of the Russell 2000? It was like 81.5. I mean, it doesn't. Things are so overvalued right now. It doesn't even make sense investing in them. I mean, everything is at all-time highs.
It's like paying $1 billion for your local corner gas station.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And over the long term, if you were to regress that gas station to the mean, that gas station ain't worth $1 billion.
It's worth maybe
a couple $100,000, $1 million,
$1.5 million if it's a high traffic corner.
It's not worth what you're paying for it.
Right.
And because these dollars, and it's not just American dollars. I mean, look at foreign investors are trying to get their money out of these markets as quickly
we've got
as
a caller.
possible.
We're going to go to the phones. Got a caller from Houston. Robert, welcome to the show.
Good morning. What is your opinion on bank-owned properties, investing in them?
In bank-owned properties, you mean buying foreclosures?
No, REO properties that the bank takes back.
Yeah, that's buying a foreclosure. So banks are required to list properties on MLS because they have to represent the shareholders of the bank to get the most value out of it. So the only way to buy REO properties is they're listed on HAR. So all of them are going to be represented by an agent. So it's like buying any other property. What I'd say is, the mistake that I see that a lot of people make with a bank-owned property. Now, the other way to get them is you can go to the foreclosure auction and compete with the bank. And the way that works is, let's say that somebody has a mortgage for $140,000 on a house, and they quit paying on the mortgage. And let's say the house is worth $180,000. Okay, so what we don't know is what's the condition of the house because we're not allowed to access the house. So what ends up happening is that the bank is allowed to take the $140 that's the unpaid balance, plus they can add any additional attorney fees and late fees and all those things. Let's say that they have a credit against that house of $150. So when it goes to auction, a trustee will stand up in Harris County. A trustee stands up and says, "Hey, I've got this particular house." They read the legal description, they read the physical address, and they say, "Hey, the bank bids $150,000." If no one bids above that, then the bank now owns that property. But if you bid $150,100, then the bank's going to get the first $150,000. The previous homeowner is supposed to get any amount that's due that's less than that. Okay. That's over that. Any overages are supposed to go to the previous homeowner. But that means that you're bidding above what the bank has. So that's one way to do it. And then it's just going to go for the highest, the highest price at the auction. But if no one bids above that, now the bank owns it. Now the bank's required. They're going to go in and make it safe and secure and all that kind of stuff. Now they're the owner of the property. They're going to list it on MLS through an agent, and you can buy it like that. So now it's an REO property. It's real estate owned. That's what REO stands for. It's owned by the bank. And, any property on MLS, you can certainly get some deals on MLS, especially now because there's lots of properties, especially flooded properties, things like that are listed on MLS. They're designed for investors.
So, yes, buy foreclosed properties. We do not buy properties at the courthouse steps. I shouldn't say we don't.
It's not actually done at courthouse steps anymore. They've moved it in Harris County, but in most places,
it's the courthouse steps.
Correct.
We don't do that because of the chain of title issues. I don't. Let me back up. We have done it. I do not recommend it for new investors. It is a very
It's a risky strategy.
It's extremely risky unless you know absolutely what you're doing. We would never recommend it to our students. I mean, you really have to know what you're doing. But
we know people that do it actively now, and they actually have a person from their title company is there with them, pulling title on the spot as much as they can. But oftentimes what I've seen is if you're going in and bidding on a house, and let's say there's a $120,000 loan on a let's say a $400,000 house, and you're going to assume that that's a first lien position,
yeah, that's got to be the first, right? We're foreclosing on the first.
It's not always. It could be a second lien position. There could be another $200,000 loan that's a first lien position, and you're buying a second, which means that you just paid off the person that was in a second lien, and now you've bought a house not free and clear, but it has a $200,000 lien, or it could have tax liens, or it could have. I mean, there's lots of liens that could be in front of the lien position that you're buying.
And that's assuming they even notice those people correctly. So
yeah, there's also you could lose the house due to wrongful foreclosure. There's a 2-year statute of limitation for wrongful foreclosure. There's all kinds of things that could go wrong, and it's a risky strategy unless you're absolutely willing to understand all the ins and outs of doing that. So, are you in Texas?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, can deals be found? Yes, but there's a lot of risk that goes on. We feel like there's safer ways to buy properties without taking on that risk. In fact, you can come to our weekend retreat. We talk about other strategies. You can register. Our next one is January 18th, 19th, and 20th, and you can go to rightpathrealestate.com and register for that.
Yeah, because I always thought that the banks.
Hey, we got to go to break. We can continue on the other side of break. All right.
Mike's off.
All right. Thanks. Hey, if he wants to hang on, then we can continue him. But yeah,
add a zero to that.
I know, right? Right.
Dean left us a nice note.
Yeah.
He said, discussing your top-line revenue publicly further solidifies y'all's legitimacy.
Yeah.
Similar when you disclose the rare times you lose money on a deal. Wish other leaders and fly-into town seminar gurus would do the same. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Dean.
Dean, that means a lot. Appreciate that.
Which has helped us to create our 3 keys to success.
When am I coming to San Antonio? We got plans for San Antonio, but it's I don't know when we're going to.
Dallas is next.
Yeah,
for sure, Dallas is next.
We have a big Dallas announcement, but it's not going to be till the new year.
Yeah, which is next week.
Yeah.
Hey, Aunt Sherry.
Is that your aunt?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it's a Trahan, right?
She is. I love my aunt. She's awesome.
Real estate investors.
Yeah, Richard.
She lives in Atlanta, or just out a suburb of Atlanta.
Yeah, Richard, I'll tell you, the only time we've won at foreclosure auction is the lender comes to us and says, hey, get me out of this deal, and we'll either buy their non-performing note and take it to auction, or we'll end up bidding on it at the auction.
Right.
Because we know everything about that property. That's the only time you really win. But otherwise, we know. Let me put it this way: we know some guys that are really, really smart, like guys that we consider smarter than us, that have had their butt handed to them.
Yeah, right.
So we're just like, I don't want to do any of that. So we really don't. Although I think when foreclosures kick up and we're in a down cycle, it might make sense to go.
Yeah, right.
It might make sense to take the American Recovery Fund and go buy 50 houses. That's the other thing. You really do have to buy a lot of houses at auction for it to make sense.
Yeah, because then you're spreading the risk. Because I've got a buddy of mine that over probably a 3 or 4 year period would go every month and buy 1 or 2 houses, and a lot of them he was flipping. And do you ever really win? Yeah, Richard, that's a great point. In fact, that's one of the things that we say is that the winner, quote unquote, winner of the auction is the guy that's willing to take the most amount of risk for the least amount of return. And because that's the guy that's willing to bid the most, right? If I'm willing to take a 10% rate of return and Jason's willing only to take a 15%, I can outbid him every single time. Or if I'm willing to take more risk, I can outbid him. And so are you really winning when you're taking more risk and reducing your amount of return that you're willing to take? And you can do less due diligence on the property itself because you really aren't. I mean, do people climb all over properties and kind of, gain access? But none of that's legal. You don't have legal. You can't typically test the property with utilities on. You can't do any kind of inspections, things like that. So for a rookie investor, that's not a good start.
Jeff mentions you always see them at auctions with their clipboards. They've done all their homework. I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's the pros, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about the most competitive environment where you have to have an incredible information advantage. It's always at the auction.
If you saw the custom software that these hedge funds have designed, where they can analyze, 3,000 and 4,000 properties, and they're looking for the top, 50 or 75 properties, and they know exactly what their maximum that they can pay, and they'll buy 50 or 75 properties in an auction, but they've analyzed data because they have tools that they've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on to be able to do that, and their cost of capital is a fraction of what most people cost. I mean, they're raising money at 2 and 3%, and your cost of capital is not that low, so they can pay you. They can pay more for the property because their cost of capital is so low. Now, when we rank people,
here we go.
Yeah.
Call Jason or Tom.
All right, the caller hung up.
Yeah.
FYI.
Okay.
You want to talk about auctions when we get back?
At facebook.com/RightPathRealEstate.
Hot mic.
Hey, welcome back, Right Path Real Estate Radio. We had a caller before the show, before the last break, and we were talking about foreclosure auctions. One of the things that you don't realize is that the people that have the lowest cost of money, these hedge funds are oftentimes dealing with 2% cost of money, and they invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in software programs that can aggregate and analyze data on a lot of different fields that affect value long term. And so they're looking for equity plays and then also rent. And so when you stratify which investors can pay the most for a piece of property, the people that are always top of the food chain are people that are end user owner occupants. So if I were going to go out and look for a deal for a house that I wanted to move into myself, yeah, you might be able to go in and compete at the auction because you can outbid any investor and get a deal on a house. You're buying at a discount to the market because maybe I want to fix it up myself, fix in those kind of. The second highest in terms of who can pay for the most for the house is a buy and hold investor, especially a home or landlord. If you have a guy that only invests in Sharpstown, for example, and he sees that there's 3 or 4 properties coming up in Sharpstown, he can bid more than anybody else. And as you move down the chain, its flippers are near the bottom. And so it's really hard to get value unless you have an extremely low cost of money and you can analyze a lot of data. So that's all about foreclosures. Not a big fan. Too much risk, not enough reward. So I want to get to, hey, everybody needs to go to rightpathrealestate.com. That's rightpathrealestate.com. We have a free event tomorrow. It's going to be at our offices. 11451 Katy Freeway, but we would like you to register for the event. Again, it's 11451 Katy Freeway. Go to rightpathrealestate.com. It is free to go to that event. If you want to learn how to build wealth or grow your income through real estate investing, we talk about the 4 different ways to make money in real estate: buy and hold, buy, fix, and flip, wholesaling, and being the bank. We talk about all of those. We talk about finding, funding, analyzing deals. Talk about why real estate's such a good hedge against inflation in the marketplace. Go to rightpathrealestate.com. And then also we have our weekend retreat coming up January 18th, 19th, and 20th. Jason and I'll be there live. It's right here in Houston. Need to register for that event as well. It's filling up fast. Have a great evening, guys.
We'll see you tomorrow.
I'll be here tomorrow with Build Your Team Thursday.
All right, mic's off. All right, gentlemen, have a good day. I'll see you guys later.
All right, see you. Bye.
All right, bye.
All right, bye.